This year, I'm going to really challenge myself on the bike. While I had a fun time doing the 50th anniversary of Ragbri and my usual Bike MS ride, this time it was down in Florida, I didn't really focus much other attention on the bike last year. I allowed any little intrusion to quickly take me away from either getting out on the road or doing training sessions inside. But this year, I have a big challenge that I'm setting for myself, and I want to have you along for the journey. Hey there, I'm just another John Q. Public on a bike. A Joshua Q cyclist, if you will. That's the JQC. Clever, right? Well, a little bit. I'm not a pro. I'm not an expert. Heck, I'm not even a bike mechanic. So why am I sitting here talking to you about cycling and the journey I set myself on? I'm one of who knows how many out there who love to ride their bike, go fast, and want to challenge themselves on the bike, but isn't a racer. There's no team, a fancy bus, a group of trainers, mechanics, big budgets, or any of that. Just someone who gets that thrill of freedom on the bike and wants to challenge themselves for something new. But let me rephrase something real quick. I don't think intrusion was the right word. Most of the time I was called away from the bike, it was to provide support or spend time with others, helping friends with what they needed. And I did this willingly and happily, and I don't regret being there for them or with them. So yeah, I guess those weren't really intrusions, but alternatives. But anyway, back to not riding. And I hear you. If you love it, then why did you not ride? Well, when life gets busy, excuses are easy to come by. Yeah, I know that sounds like an easy cop-out, but it's true. Being able to spend time with others can be difficult, and when it came down to it, I was putting others ahead of myself. It's not to say I did anything begrudgingly or with ill will or anything like that. I willingly made the choices, and I stand by that. What I didn't do, though, was to make sure that I was balancing out attending what others needed while keeping my needs in mind as well. The downside to offering myself and my nuggets of free time was that I didn't have my opportunities to recharge and re-energize myself. Like so many others, cycling is my happy pills. Are my happy pills? Cycling and happy pills. We'll just leave it at that. Spending time out on the road, watching the world go by, detached and free. I love looking down and seeing the mechanics of the bike working under me, human-powered speed and excitement. Being out on the bike gives me the ability to switch off and clear my head. Something's bothering me, I can't quite figure out how to handle the situation, I'm feeling stuck or just feeling overwhelmed. Hop on the bike, spin it out. Cycling is so good for my mental health, and I learned last year that it has more of an impact than I was realizing. Although there are others in my life that kind of knew that already. But sometimes in life we get distracted and things like getting away on the bike takes a back seat to everything else going on, and then a new routine is started. Breaking those new habits can be daunting and a little anxiety-laden. What used to be routine, say going out on an expected ride, has now turned into, who do I disappoint by not being there because I'm out on the bike? Some might say that fear was always present because your previous riding was still taking time away, and I understand that. But I think that going out on the bike during those times was an expected act, right? Like schedules were formed based on that understanding because that was the routine. But when that understanding or that routine is changed to something new, other things start getting scheduled as priority, and that's when it becomes more difficult to then tell your mate that you want to go out on the bike. All that can be okay as long as we maintain some sort of balance between these external elements, and that's where I failed. Because of time off the bike, not only has my power taken a hit, but my overall fitness has also not been the greatest. Go figure. Well, what happens when fitness takes a hit? Well, you get another hit to your mental well-being. It's all connected. I do enjoy completing the training sessions on Sufferfest and doing the virtual group rides. But because I wasn't training for anything specific, it was easy to just write off a session or not hurry in the morning to make it to one of those virtual group rides. So, as you can see, I didn't fully embrace my why, and I suffered for it. Why I love going out on the bike. Why I always feel elevated after a ride. Why I get on the bike. By not embracing my why, I lost my path with cycling. That being said, I was still soaking in all of the videos and podcasts about cycling. I was living vicariously through those cyclists, but all that does is provide a quick breath and a break. No amount of watching someone else enjoy the action you enjoy will fill the gap that has been formed. I try to handle myself calmly day to day. I try to approach situations with a chill, it's going to be okay approach. Being flexible and going with the flow is such a key element in my 9-to-5 mindset, and I think I wear that well. Normally, I've built a career on that life approach. What I found the last few months of last year was that my default approach was working at work, but it was draining me by the end of the day. That evening commute was my transition from, it's all good, let's handle whatever happens, energy, to, I'm just tired, I don't have the patience for quick changes or to make too many decisions. So, let me take another quick sidestep here. I'm not trying to say that spending time with loved ones wasn't fulfilling or was something I wasn't looking forward to. It's quite the opposite. They are what helped keep me going day to day. Home was that safe space. I didn't have to wear that mask of thumbs up, all good, but I could just be myself and just be. What I didn't like, though, was that because I was exhausted and mentally drained, I didn't feel like I was being a good partner, and instead was just dumping my issues their way. I know, partners are there to be the support and hold each other up, so stop thinking you were a burden type of thing. I mean, that's easy to say, but it can be difficult to believe, especially when they're going through rough times themselves. And during that time frame, there were several other elements weighing on everyone. Timing was just too perfect there, and all in the wrong way. That's all to say that being off the bike and damaging that routine that I had, forgetting my why, all culminated into a rough couple months, and I was done with that. I needed a change. So that's the not so short story as to how I decided to set a fairly big goal for 2024. At least it's a fairly big goal for me. So the goal? Well, I want to see how close I can get to qualifying for the 2024 Gran Fondo National Championships. You see, I've never cycled competitively. I can be competitive in things, but I've never ridden competitively. All my riding has been for fun, exercise, and to challenge myself against, well, really just myself. The only timing chip rides that I've done in the past have been for the Armed Forces Cycling Challenge. And even then, I'm not competing against anyone else, just against the clock and my own self-given goal of how many laps I want to accomplish. Everything else has been either rides with friends or fundraising. Now, I realize that a Gran Fondo isn't like a regular road race or a crit, but that doesn't mean it isn't competitive, challenging, or that it's going to be easy. I've done rides that could be considered Gran Fondos, namely the MS rides because of the distance. The difference here is that we'll be having timing chips on our bikes for some timed segments throughout the course. And so unlike a regular road race where it's all about who crosses the finish line first, a Gran Fondo focuses on 4 timed sections throughout the course. The final time across the finish line isn't what determines your standing, but how you accumulated time in those 4 sections. Not only that, but participants are also split up into age groups, so a 45-year-old isn't competing against a 21-year-old. So really, out of the whole course, it's just those 4 timed sections that are the most important. All the areas in between are great for you to be able to catch your breath, recovery, take a little longer rest at one of the feed stations, and, enjoy the day. There will be some people who are doing the ride not for the competition, but because they like doing large participation, organized rides. It's an opportunity to hit the road with a few hundred of your closest cycling friends and have a bigger presence out on the road, which makes it a little safer to be out on the bike on the road. For those who are working towards the end of the series challenge, which is the Gran Fondo National Championship in the fall, these fondos are the stepping stone to earning a qualification spot at that start line. So what does qualification look like? Well, to qualify for the national champs, one needs to A, either be a top 25% finisher in your age group in a grand route, which is about 100 miles, at any series event based on the number of starters in that age group, or be a top 3 finisher in your age group category in a grand route at any series event, regardless of the number of starters. Yeah, there's a third way to qualify in the real world, but that one isn't centered on finishing within a certain placement, and so I'm not going to use that as a metric. The third way is to complete 2 or more grand route events at series events. So my goal isn't to try and be in the top 3 at any of these events, but to see how I can start from 0 experience in competitive events to seeing how far up the chain I can get. I'm just trying to be realistic in my goal setting. My plan is to ride 2 or 3 fondos in the National Series, preferably 3 if I can swing it. The first one I'm aiming for is in March, the Florida Gran Fondo. The course last year was 101.8 miles and about 3,100 feet of climbing. So I'm anticipating something very similar, if not the same course this year. I think this will be the easiest of the courses, but only in the climbing department. I pretty much expect the time segments to be extra fast on the flatter areas. Because I'm not a strong climber, I think this will be a good introduction to the whole competitive aspect of a fondo. I've done centuries in the past for Bike MS, but that's always been at my own pace the entire way. We roll off the start line, and when people finish, they finish. No timing chip, no racing, just a great day out on the bike, raising money and awareness. So to try the competitive side of things is going to be a big shift for me. And if I had to do that while also climbing 9,000 feet, that'd be a bit much for a newbie. This first fondo I ride in will be kind of a systems check and baseline setting for the rest of the year. I fully expect not to do that great in it because it's something new. It's not that I have a defeatist attitude, but when was the last time you tried something new and was amazing at it? This is how I'll learn what I need to improve on and where I need to focus better on my training. With not having an extensive backlog of training, I know that the ride will be a struggle, but like I said, it's a good systems check to highlight the deficits of training, pacing, nutrition, the whole 9 yards. This year, what we're doing is we're looking for growth and forward momentum in the process. Once I have that under my belt, I'll then look at the next one to do that I've penciled in on the calendar. And that one is going to be in April, and that's where the climbing's going to start getting really tough. The Tour of Georgia Gran Fondo. That's about 90 miles and almost 9,000 feet of climbing. And truth be told, I'm not fully committed to this ride yet. It's only a month after my first fondo, and I don't know if that will allow enough time for me to reevaluate my training and make any significant or noticeable progress. So yeah, it's a compressed time frame from one to the next, but maybe that'll help keep things on track. I don't know. And while that sounds nice, I don't know if I'd bet the farm on it. Already this year, I haven't been as laser focused on the training as I was hoping. And I think I know why. I hadn't registered for the first fondo until very recently, and so it was still something that was just kind of out there in the future at some point. I'm terrible about that thought process. I can't count how many times I've thought, oh, that's far away, I'll worry about it when it gets closer. Problem is that event then pops up and boom, I've done nothing to prepare or get tickets for, or I've scheduled something else, or as often is the case, I forget about it entirely until the day after and I see everybody talking about it. And so because of that, it's made it easier for me to take time off of the bike here and there. Like I said, excuses are very easy to come by. So I'm torn about the second ride, given the kind of short time frame after the first. It's something I need to sit down and really think hard about after Florida. But the third one that I'm looking at is further down the road in July in Asheville. For that, we're looking at about 8,600 feet of climbing over 100 miles. The 3 main climbs on this route are a little spread out, kinda. The first 2 climbs are in the 30 and 40 mile portion of the route, back to back kind of. The first climb is about 4.5 miles, while the second one looks to be about 6 miles. The final main climb on the course is over 7.5 miles and about 1,800 feet right there. This is happening at almost the 80-mile section of the route, so that's going to be some tiring climbing for sure. This could be the one that kills me. The Georgia route is similar with climbing, maybe 100 feet more, but the 3 main climbs are front-loaded in the course, having completed them by the time you get to the 35-mile-ish portion of the route. So knock those out early and kind of enjoy the rest of the ride. But I have a lot of work cut out for me. I've looked at a few other series events as backups, just in case I'm not able to make the April or July one. You know, there's work travel, life conflicts, things get in the way. Whether I need to lean on those others kind of remains to be seen, but, we'll see. I'm hoping I can stick with these 3 because it's easier to plan out calendars for personal and work this far out. I mean, I still need to work out where I'm going to do my Bike MS ride and keeping dates open to ride in the Armed Forces Cycling Challenge. So Keeping a focus on these 3 rides as the targets will help with the logistics of all the other things. Earlier I said ways to qualify in the real world. Well, in January and February, through Zwift, the Gran Fondo National Series hosted several e-fondos. Instead of timed segments for qualification, a points segment was established for the participating riders. Top points finishers in the various age groups would then qualify for the Gran Fondo National Champs in Maryland. There was also if you ride in 4 e-fondos, you would also qualify. But again, just like with the doing 3, that I didn't want to lean on that. Timing and other obligations meant that I was only able to ride in 3 of the e-fondos that were available. So I missed out on that 4th qualifying one. I'm okay with that, because if I had done 4, then my journey for the year would have kind of been over, and I didn't want that. I mean, yeah, I would have still aimed for the on-the-road attempt, but who's to say that my mental approach wouldn't take a hit because, well, I've already qualified. I'm good to go, so there's no stress. And if there's no stress, there's no push, then I probably wouldn't stick with it as hard. But there you have it. That's my cycling goal for 2024. I need to get more training in. I need to get better at pacing. I need to drink more when I'm on the bike. I need to eat more when I'm on the bike. I definitely have my work cut out for me. I need to get in more training. I need to get better at pacing, drinking more on the bike, eating more on the bike, and everything else in between. Along the way, I'll be setting up a training plan, examining my bike fit, the equipment I use, my nutrition, both on and off the bike, pacing, like I said earlier, because when I start these rides, I go out hard and strong because it's exciting and I'm riding with people, but then the wall hits, and I don't want that to happen if I haven't completed all the timed sections. So I got to worry about the pacing. And, I could use a little bit of weight loss. So I hope that by documenting and sharing my journey here at these cafe stops and with other shorter videos on YouTube, I'm giving myself a little extra accountability and that little extra kick of motivation when I need it. I know I'm a pretty average cyclist, and I'm going to be going up against people that have been training for these for years. I don't have that competitive riding background like they do. So it's going to be difficult, but I'm looking forward to that path ahead. It's been a path that's been a long time coming. I don't know if this next step in my cycling evolution was to be expected or will surprise people. I didn't ever think that this is what I would be doing on a bike when I was growing up. But you know what? That background's going to have to wait until the next episode. So thanks for joining me on this cafe stop and listening. Let's continue this soon.